Okay, we're going to keep working on transformations, and we're going to do the same types of transformations we did when we were graphing absolute value functions, but now we're going to do them with lines. And so we get a new line format, and that is this one right here, y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. And everyone always kind of asks, okay, well, another form of a line, why do we have another one? And what's really interesting about this, or interesting as it is in math, maybe not to some of you, not as interesting, but the idea is that we've been writing our equations in point slope form, which looks like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And you guys are really familiar with that. But when we get to graphing these in a calculator, like your graphing calculator, we can't graph it in this form. So we can move this y1 over to the other side, and then all of a sudden we get this new equation, y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. And what's nice about this is in the same transformational form that our absolute value equation was. Our absolute value equation looked like y equals a, which is in the same position as slope, and then we have our absolute value, x minus h, which is the x value of our vertex, plus k, which is the y value of our vertex. So we're seeing a lot of similarities there. And in fact, when we start working with parabolas, we're going to see those same similarities. When we start working with cubics and other types of graph, we're going to see those similarities based on how we write these functions. And so because they all have these same properties, we call it transformational form, because they all have the same transformational properties. And so when we're working with lines, we have this basic parent function, which is y equals x. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at how that changes based on what numbers are here, here, and here. And it's going to change the exact same way the absolute value functions did. So we're going to have that same vocabulary we had. So our x1 value moves our graph left or right, and it's called a horizontal shift. We also have the y value moves the graph up or down, which is the vertical shift. If it is negative, if a is negative, then the graph is going to open down. Not really open down, but it's going to slope down instead of sloping up. And that's going to be a reflection over the x-axis. And then we also have an m value between 0 and 1 will be a vertical compression. And then we have an m value that is greater than 1 will cause the graph to narrow or steepen, which is a vertical stretch. And so we're going to start seeing, really, you can't tell fatten and widen and narrow with this because the line is harder to tell than the V shape. You can definitely tell the V shape that's getting narrower and all that. So our keywords are now going to start looking like, instead of narrow, it's going to steepen. It's going to become a steeper graph. And instead of fatten or widen, it's going to become less steep. And because remember, this is all affecting our slope, that's where we're going to see that. And so again, I'm going to go back to that GeoGebra program to kind of show you how this all works. So we have our green line, which is our original function, y equals x. And I'm going to transform it to a pink function. So here's my pink function. It looks exactly the same as the green. We're going to add in our pink points that go with the pink line. Oh, I'm missing one. There's our B. And so we can see that those points and that line is exactly the same. So we've got our y equals x in green, and in pink we've got our y equals x. So let's look at how things change. So let's see if I change my h, which is really our x1. So if I change that to +1, this now says -1, which means it's moving it in a positive direction. So we're seeing that change in sign, and I can keep moving it. -2 moves it +2, -3 moves it +3, -3 moves it +4. And we're starting to see how that changes. Okay, let's look at how our k changes it. So our k is going to move it up. And we're seeing how that moves up. And then our a, so as I make it higher than 1, it's making it steeper. If I make it less than 1, it's making it less steep. And then when I make it negative, now it's starting to go down. So now it's reflecting over the x-axis, and then again less steep until we get to 1, -1, and then as it gets above that, it gets steeper and steeper and steeper, but yet still going down because of the negative, but the absolute value of that number, that 3, makes it steeper. And so just seeing how the different changes are. And so I can even move some stuff around here. So let's say my h is 3, my k is 4, and I'm going to have a slope of 1/2. So we can start seeing that change and how that occurs. Okay, so let's go back to our graph, our notes, and let's go ahead and practice some of these problems, because it seems you could see everything you want to see, and oh yeah, it kind of comes to it, and then you get to a problem and you're like, yeah, now how do I use this? So let's go ahead and look at this. So our original point, 0, 0, kind of like our vertex, we're starting there, and we're going to look at how we shift that point. And so our point's going to come from here. So that is the x value of where that point's going to move, which is +2. This is the y value of where my point's going to move, which is +1. So how is that shifting this graph around? So the x value is +2, so that is, x value is a horizontal shift. And remember, with horizontal shift, we change the sign, so it's +2. The y value is my vertical shift. So this is a vertical shift, which means up and down, of +1. So now I'm going to take this green point here, and I'm going to move it to the point 2, 1. So x2, so I'm moving it right 2, up 1, and that gives me my new point. Now this number here, that's our slope. So that's telling me that I'm going to have a vertical something. Now if it's bigger than 1, it's a stretch. If it's less than 1, it's a compression. So this is bigger than 1, so it's a vertical stretch of 3. And remember, this is just describing my slope. So really, this is just a slope. So from this purple point, I'm going to have a slope of 3. So I'm going to go up 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3 over 1. Or I can go down 1, 2, 3 over 1. And that's going to be my new line. And so my points there are kind of showing how that graph is changing. Okay, so let's look at our next problem. X value. So I change the sign. X value tells me right or left, so it's horizontal. Shift. And with horizontal, I change the sign, so -5. So when I'm looking at how this point is going to change, it's going to go from 0 to -5, so left 5. And then I'm going to my y value, which is -4. So y value is vertical, so this is a vertical shift of -4. So this new point, this point here, 0, 0, is now going to become the point -5, -4. So horizontal shift of -5, vertical shift -4, and that's my new point. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at that slope. So 2/3. And so this is going to be a vertical stretch or compression. Since my number is less than 1, it's a compression, so it's making it less steep. And so now from this purple point, I'm going to go up to right 1, 2, 3, down to left 1, 2, 3, and there's my line. There's my points for my line, and so now I can connect them. So we can already tell right here it is less steep, and we moved that purple point left 5, down 4. Horizontal shift of -5, vertical shift of -4. So again, getting used to the language of how it's changing and how everything we've been doing so far, we've been doing all this. It's just now learning how to communicate that in this transformational language. Okay, so next one. Looking at our x value. So our x value is our horizontal shift. And so if it's -5, we change the sign to +5. So that means when I take this 0, 0 point, I am moving it to the right 5. So my x value is now going to be 5. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at that y value, +2. Y moves us up or down, so that's vertical. So this is a vertical shift of +2, so it means I'm moving up 2. So now I'm going to take this point and I'm going to go horizontally 5, vertically 2, and that gives me my point. So this point just moved to here, and now we're going to use that slope to figure this out. So this is a negative, which means my slope is -1. Negative means it reflects across the x-axis, meaning instead of going up, it's now going to go down. Now I look at just the number 1. Is 1 bigger than 1? Is 1 less than 1? Well, it's the same, so there is no stretch or compression. So now that I've described it, I'm now going to go to this one point that I just moved, and I'm going to go down 1, over 1. I'm also going to go up 1, left 1. There gives me my points, and I can draw my line for my graph. Okay, our last one. So let's go back. We've got our x value. So this is a +1. X value is horizontal. So horizontal shift of, with horizontal, we change the sign. So -1. So that means we're going to move this point here from 0 to -1. So left 1. Then we're going to look at our y value, +3. Y moves it up and down, so it's our vertical shift of +3, so we're moving it up 3. So now we're going to go to that 0, 0 point, and we're going to move it down 1, or wait, not down 1, but to the left 1, and then up 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go ahead and look at that slope. Our slope is -4/5. Now the negative tells me that I reflect over the x-axis. So this is going to go down. So pretty much this whole line, instead of going up, is coming down this way in this direction. So now that I've shifted this is going down this way in that direction. But that's not all. I also have this 4/5 here. So now I have to compare 4/5. Is it bigger than 1 or is it less than 1? Since it's less than 1, it is a vertical compression because it's making it less steep. Of 4/5. So now I'm going to go to that turquoise point and I'm going to go down 4, right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or up 1, 2, 3, 4, left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that gives us our points to be able to draw our graph, which is really, again, this is what we have been doing, but now we're just putting some descriptions to it, looking at it in a new way. Okay, and so we are done with chapter 4 now. We'll keep practicing this. We'll have a practice test, and then we'll test and move on to chapter 5.